All right, everybody, welcome back. So excited for this conversation today. A little bit different than what we've done before. This conversation geared around neuroscience, geared around influence, geared around sales. This person has experience in all of them. Rene Rodriguez, welcome to the Define Success podcast. Thank you for being here.
Appreciate you, the invitation. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. So let's start things off just talking about neuroscience first, because I think it's such a topic that people seem like they think about it as so out there. It takes a lot of time to learn it. It's so like sciencey that people don't even try to learn, attempt to learn. But it's so important because a lot of what we do on a daily basis and a lot of our knowledge and our success comes from what's between our ears. And you took the time to learn about neuroscience, to learn about the brain, understand yourself and other humans around you better. What first inspired you to go on that path and learn about neuroscience?
Neuroscience for me comes from one conversation I had with my mother when I was like 17, probably. She said, "Renee, look around this room and tell me what everybody has in common." And I was trying to figure it out, and I couldn't. I was looking at face, skin color. I was looking at the culture, what they were wearing, and I couldn't do it. And she said, "Renee, everybody has a brain, and if you understand how the brain works, you'll be able to work with anyone, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll be able to understand people no matter what language they speak, where they're from, what they like and dislike. You'll be able to understand why people buy, why people make decisions." And to me, the more one, at that age, you kind of just hear that, but the older you get, you start realizing if I can understand how we make decisions, that means we really are understanding how people live their life.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can apply that to selling, why they decide to work with me, what they believe is a high price or a low price. I can apply that to relationships, to persuasion. I can apply that in school. I can apply that to being a parent. I can apply it to anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some lessons that you've learned? Because like I said, it's a topic that people think takes all this education and everything. What are some lessons that you learned that are applicable to everyone, not just sales, but just understanding the brain more?
I'd probably say, when it comes to understanding the brain, it's that to listen to your gut
Okay.
and listen to what you know intuitively, because we know that there's certain sequences on how things work, but yet we don't always listen to them. And
Mm-hmm.
so we know that if you want to get someone to pay attention, you got to build trust first. You
Yep.
got to, if you want them to listen to a value proposition, you've got to make them like you first. And so there's those little sequences that, especially in sales, you start realizing building rapport is critical. And from a neuroscience perspective, rapport is about trust. It's about all those things. But what happens when you have rapport and you build trust first and they like you, then they're open to new ideas. And selling is a new idea. At the end of the day, it's I got to get you to think differently and
Yep.
behave differently. You might be spending money with my competitor. I need you to spend money with me. You might be behaving this way. I need you to behave that way. You might be whatever it is. You're selling solar. You might be used to electricity, but we're going to get you thinking about solar energy this time. It's a huge behavioral conceptual shift. And for if they don't like you or trust you first, doesn't matter how cool your idea is or how much you claim that you can save me.
Yeah. And it's such a big change too. I mean, even just the smallest sale, like everything is about change and people are so like resistant to change. I've seen like that's the most difficult things because people get so stuck in their ways of what they currently do. And you present a change and everybody just gets so aggressive about it. Like, no, that's not what I want to do. This is not right for me. So it's you're absolutely right. Building that trust of saying, hey, this is beneficial for you. I'm not just trying to push you into it. Like this is why you need to go in that direction.
Yeah, if you're in sales at all, if you're in leadership and management, you're in the change management business
Mm,
by bar none. And the most ironic thing about change is that we know that change is sort of the key to survival. It's a key to competitive advantage. It's the key to growth. It's a key to learning. It's at everything, but yet our brain resists change,
yeah.
which is what to me was the most ironic. Because you think, okay, if I want to change and be healthier, I'm going to eat better foods, which means I'm going to say no to the foods that I want to eat. But yet, your brain, if the number one job of the brain is to keep us alive, why wouldn't the brain be super excited to have this new chicken and broccoli
Hmm.
instead of going to have the donut and Pop Tarts? And so your brain is designed to keep us the same, the process of homeostasis, and yet our growth comes from change. And so we are biologically being going to be challenged anytime we want to make a growth move. And so one of the things that also stops us from growing and changing is the feeling of awkwardness.
Hmm.
And you're doing something different, it feels awkward because I haven't done this before. And what I tell people all the time is that awkwardness is required for learning. Awkwardness is required for growth. If you're feeling awkward in something, you are growing. Your
Yeah.
brain is connecting in new ways. So seek out the awkward moments. Seek out that time when you're trying to learn a new dance step, because you do it wrong. But then once you get it, it starts looking better. A new script, a new close, whatever it is, if it feels awkward, we tend to run from it. And yet, if we stick with it a little bit longer, our life could be a lot different.
Yeah. Homeostasis is a great word to use because when I learned that in high school, like when I was taking science classes, the way I remembered it, and I still remember it today, is compared to a thermostat. You set your thermostat at 70 degrees. If the home gets cooler, it's going to go back up. If the home gets warmer, it's going to go back down, and always going back to that set spot. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
great example you used. Like whenever we feel awkward, we feel like these different things that are pushing us away from that thermostat set at 70, we're going to go back to normal. So how do you cause your brain or try to train your brain to say, hey, it's okay to get warmer, it's okay to get cooler and get away from that set point?
Well, I think that you have to you have to think about homeostasis as that part of the goal is survival, because there are certain things that are good. You want to be 98.6 degrees
Mm-hmm.
temperature. So that process is good. It keeps, if you get too hot, it'll cool you down.
Yep.
Get too cold, it'll warm you up, all that stuff. Right. And, but then the challenge is it applies to the external world as well. And what happens is that if you hang in there just a little bit longer than you expected, if you stay with the process a little bit longer, we start to get desensitized to the change, and it starts to become normal, or maybe a new normal for us. If you weight loss, if you've got that thermostat set at a certain weight and you lose weight, pretty soon you're going to start craving things to get you back up to that set point that you were before. And so you've got to fight through that time period so that you can reset it. And it might take 6 months to a year, but it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
But most change like that is different. Like Tiger Woods was notorious for making a simple change to his golf swing, and it lowered him in the rankings for almost 2.5 years, and then he came back and won the Masters again. And so, but it was just a quarter-inch move that he made in his grip, but he knew the long-term effects and the value that had on his game. And it's no different for us in business and in life. We've got to be able to make those little changes that at first are going to feel awkward, and yet if we still fight through it, it will be better. Go back to even old Facebook. Right? When Facebook came out, remember Facebook used to make constant interface changes, and we'd all get super upset by it. And then after a week, we were just used to it.
Yep.
It's just what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard enough to make ourselves to make that decision. Tiger Woods, I'm going to just adjust my grip one little bit and I'm going to stay consistent with that. That is difficult to commit to that. Is there an effective way to try to help other people make change, and not even in the sales regard? Maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's a friendship. Like if someone is doing something in the wrong direction, is there an effective way to help promote them to change and start promoting change in their own life?
I think we all want to cause change in other people first. It's much easier to want someone else to change than us to change.
Yep.
And in the rare occasions when you're with somebody who does need to change, let's say you're a manager and you're trying to change behavior, or you're in a relationship and then your partner maybe has abusive types of behavior, change is impossible unless that other person wants to change, or unless you have massive leverage over them. Now, if you're a boss, you could leverage their job over them. Like, if you don't make this change, I'm going to have to let you go. Right? If you're in a relationship, if this doesn't change, I'm going to have to leave. Now, those are leverage points, which I don't like those, because they're forceful. They're not powerful. They're forceful. Now, it's important to set boundaries. But if you allowed yourself to get into that position already, that means we missed opportunities for influence way early on. And so, to me, the most powerful way is obviously to be able to inspire somebody to want to make the change,
Yep.
and to invite them into the process. And that isn't easy and does not always work. Let's just be clear about it. It's just the preferable way. It's much better for the relationship that somebody chooses into a new way of behaving versus feeling forced. And because the challenge, if I feel forced, or if I feel threatened, or if I feel manipulated into it, the potential for resentment later on and rebellion goes way up. And so what we want to do is obviously be the type of people that can invite people into new ways of thinking, create a vision of possibility. And if you do it well enough, you'll create the desire for people to want to go down that path.
Yeah, I think that's the key of just importance of leadership and leading by example, being the person that takes that first step to learn a new topic, to start waking up earlier, being the person to provoke change in yourself, and then just let the results speak for themselves. Someone might say like, you're crazy for doing this, doing that, but if you start getting better, I think a lot of people, from my experience, they'll just tag along and be like, hey, this is working for you, like maybe I should actually try it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Awesome. Going towards your speaking career, so you're a keynote speaker. Um, how so? This is a common fear for a lot of people: the fear of speaking and the fear of getting up in front of a stage, whether it's in a classroom setting or maybe in a stadium talking to thousands of people. How do you provoke the confidence in yourself to speak in front of people and to deliver an effective message?
Well, I think when we're thinking about speaking in public, I mean, it's known that it's one of the biggest fears that we all have,
Hmm.
but it's also something that can be overcome. It's just stress, and we have to understand how stress works in the body. And when you understand how stress works in the body, you're able to manage it. Now, there's some basic things you can do, right? The more preparation you have, the less stress you're going to have. And the more confident you are, the more repetitions that you have, the more experience you have, the less stress you're going to have. But it to get to those reps and to get to the at bats, if you will, or the opportunities to speak, you have to get past the initial fear, and so you have to be able to manage the stress response in your body. And there sometimes you just got to push through it, but if you can learn to breathe properly, breathing to me is the secret weapon of all high performers. Look at every professional athlete before they engage in an activity, they're breathing.
Yeah.
A basketball player is taking a deep breath before they go to the free throw line and just getting centered. Even if the crowd is going crazy, they're trying to calm down. A sprinter, world-class sprinter, Olympic sprinter, they're breathing and just relaxing right before they're about to sprint, run as fast as humanly possible. And so it's breathing is one of the keys to being able to manage that. Navy SEALs, who are the elite of the elite, practice very specifically a process called box breathing: 4 seconds in, hold 4 seconds, out 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds, and repeated. But they're doing that while they're performing, versus everyone else is in panic mode and yelling and screaming. They're just and hold, and while they're performing. And so the world slows down for them while it speeds up for the rest of us.
Yeah. It's amazing how most people, when they're asked to speak, they're asked to perform in a sports setting, do physical activity. Like a lot of people, their breathing increases and their heart rate increases. They just get the sense of panic almost. Whereas people that are experienced and people that practice, their heart rate it's like a resting heart rate. They've been here before. They're like so calm in these situations. It's amazing to me how people just prepare for these moments and they're like, hey, I've been here. I can do this. And I'm going to be so much more confident because I have control over my body.
Yeah, and I think you're 100% right. The confidence goes up because now we have control over what felt uncontrollable before.
Yeah.
If I have that control, then I'll be in there. And a lot of the times when we're teaching people to be in front of a room, I tell them, I said, I'm going to teach you how to fail in front of a room in a way that nobody knows.
Hmm.
And if I can teach you the 3 ways that you're typically going to fail and what to do in those moments and to get you out of it, it reduces the fear by so much.
Yeah.
And what they realize is like, wow, okay, it's not that bad to fail. And when I say fail, is to forget your message or forget what you're going to say next. And if you have a couple techniques to go back and buy yourself 15 seconds, even sometimes 30 seconds to a minute from an audience in a way that they don't even know that that's what you're doing, then it allows you to reset, take a look, go back to your notes and just breathe and let your brain sort of re-engage again.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Makes sense. Talking about success, we talked about it a little bit before we started recording, how success is different for everyone. How do you define the word success personally?
Well, that's a big one. How do I define success? I think so. There's a couple of pieces. I mean, to me, my success comes down to living my purpose. If I can live, and that sounds so cliche, I want to acknowledge that. But if you truly have discovered and chosen what your purpose is, I think the biggest feeling of success is living that.
Yeah.
And living within it. And for me, I believe God gave us all gifts. That's a very real thing. We all have been given gifts. And I believe that one of the major purposes of our life is to utilize those gifts to further in making this a better place, to further in the creation of this world, whether it be through invention, whether it be through kindness to people, servant, but everything is about service to me. How do I serve the world in some way, shape, or form? It's not happiness, by the way. Success is not happiness at all. because happiness is something that is bestowed upon you from time to time. If you're lucky, you get it for a minute or 2 or 5 minutes or something, or maybe you're on in a honeymoon phase of a relationship, but it's not something that lasts, because most of life is a struggle. Most of life is suffering. Most of life is the grind. But that doesn't mean that grinding and suffering and struggle is bad. It's what forces us to really learn about ourselves and what we're capable of. It brings us closer to reality and the reality of how difficult some things are. And so to me, if I can understand that struggle is okay and that suffering is a good thing and it makes me grow, then I'm not pursuing that. I'm pursuing being of use to the world, of utility. Somebody once said that if I want to be when the flood comes, I want to be the one who built the ark.
Mm-hmm.
And symbolically, what that means is when difficulties come, I want to be the one that did something useful and can help in that moment. If I just pursued happiness and some difficulty came along and I just focused all on myself and happiness, I'm of no use to the world in that moment.
Mm-hmm. I think that's such a powerful statement right there, and something that a lot of people don't realize. We just saw a perfect example of that a couple of years ago when COVID came. Everyone who didn't create something before then, didn't have the life that they wanted, they were just chasing that happiness, I believe were the ones that kind of took a step back. They weren't
Yeah.
always healthy in their mental state. They weren't always doing the things that made them happy, quote unquote. So the people that took the time to create the businesses, go through the suffering, the struggle, like looking back to the previous recessions in our country, those are when some of the biggest businesses were invented, was when
Yes.
everything was at an all-time low. So the people that go through the struggle and say, hey, everything is shut down around me, I don't have a lot of money, like all this stuff is going on, but I'm still going to build, I'm still going to go through it. Those are the people that are reaping the benefits right now.
Yeah. To me, the pandemic is what sparked so many positive changes in my life.
Yeah.
To me, I lost over 60 pounds.
Wow.
I created a studio like what you see here, which
Mm-hmm.
I never had before. And we've got 6 cameras, 23 lights, audio that's as good as can be. And I can kick out content. It got me thinking about video in a new way. It taught me that I can actually work from home instead of having to travel and still earn an income.
Yeah.
It innovated so many different things and made so many more meetings possible. And people that I used to be on the phone with, I can now see in person. It got me on podcasts. I mean, it got me to write the book that we had. Best number 2 Wall Street Journal. It got us to start a podcast. It got us to start. Was our podcast and virtual products. And it really was something that sparked innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the people that took advantage of that opportunity, and even now, like the opportunity is still there, because right now in a recession, looks like things are still going to go downhill. There's an opportunity to come out on top when all this is done. No one knows when it's going to end, but there's still an opportunity to chase success in 5 years, and use this as a building period, no matter what you're doing.
In the word, when we say chase success, I think is another way. And I'll throw this out there. I think it's to be success, to live success.
I like that. Yeah.
So, for example, you say you're just starting.
Yep.
You're already successful because you're already, now that doesn't mean there's levels of it, but the fact that you're on the right track, huge success.
Yeah.
The fact that you started a podcast, massive success. The fact that you're chasing something you believe in, that is the success. And here's the thing, between now and whatever you believe is the end point, once I get to whatever it is I'm going after, once you reach it, you're going to be like, okay, what's next? And you realize that whatever you think is success now meant nothing.
Yeah.
This journey means everything. And if you can feel successful every single day and then you achieve that goal, you have felt successful every day prior to that, and you realize, oh, that was a cool milestone, but I want something bigger because I want to see what I'm capable of. And you're still happy on the journey. That means the entire life that you live, you're living success.
Yeah. I love that. It's such a good reminder for myself and for everyone, because especially like using the podcast as the example, looking at someone like a Joe Rogan who gets 10 million downloads per episode. And then you look at what, I'm doing personally, it's like, that's demoralizing. Like you want to be up there, but like you're not. And to take a step back and say, hey, there's plenty of people out there that haven't even take the first step. It's a good reminder to say,
Go back and look at old footage of Joe at your age.
Yeah,
You'll
that's
feel
true.
a lot better about yourself.
That's very true. Thank
Joe
you.
has been in the grind for a long time. he's been doing this. I mean, he was a stand-up comic in
Hmm.
years that he was bombing, and he just kept doing it because he loved it.
Yeah.
And he just kept a curious view of life, and he turned that curiosity into his passion. And look at him now. But
Yep.
he's older, way older.
Yep.
And that's where, if you keep continuing on his path, and you can feel, and don't get in the comparison game.
Right.
Ever, 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 ever. Somebody once said that comparison is the thief of joy. It robs us of the success that we're doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Transitioning into sales. So you have a sales background. You told me you started going door to door with cookware. How did you
Hmm.
get started in sales, and what kind of inspired you to take that career path?
So my plan was to play basketball through high school and college. And, I had dreams of being an NBA player. You got to dream big, right?
Yeah.
And I got cut my sophomore year in college, left me with nothing to do. I didn't know what to do, where to go, where to put my energy. And I got a chance to talk to an executive, and I asked him, "What's the one thing that I got to do to be in your shoes?" It was a CEO of a very large organization. "What's the one thing I got to do now to be in your shoes when I get older?" And he smiled at me and he looks. He said, "Rene," he goes, "you learn how to sell. If you
Mm,
learn how to sell, you'll always be employed."
wow.
And it was one of those things at 18 years old, I don't ask any questions. I'm like, okay, selling, that's what I'm supposed to do. I don't even really know what that means, but I'm coachable. I've got discipline, hard work, applied everything that I did with college or with basketball to that. And I get invited to go to an interview for this fast-paced sales and marketing company in the health and wellness industry. And I thought, health and wellness, I like to work out, and fast-paced and sales, that's what I'm supposed to do. So I show up. Massive recruiting meeting for cookware, and they hired 80 kids. But my interview was this, and I said, "I will do what you say when you say to do it, with no questions asked." And because
Nice.
that's how I was with basketball.
Yeah.
So I figured I'd just do the same thing. I didn't know what the
Yeah.
hell I was doing, but I'm coachable, and I wanted to do that.
Hmm.
I had made $900 the prior summer as a janitor at my college to be able to get into school.
Wow.
And that was the most money I'd ever seen in my life. And then when they told me that the first summer one person made 9,000,
Sign me
I
up.
was hooked. And I'm like, I will do whatever you say.
Yeah.
And so many people have lost sight of that approach to learning and jobs and work. I'm 47 right now. I've been doing this work for over 28 years. And when I'm doing something new and I find somebody that can teach me something, I'm like, I will do what you say when you say it, no questions asked. I'm still the same way.
Yeah.
And now it's just has a different level of leverage and magnitude.
Yeah. It's a great example and a great mindset to have about every aspect of life, but especially going into something new, just saying, "Hey, I'm fully committed. I'm going to do whatever it takes to succeed." We kind of talked about sales a little bit at the beginning of this conversation and how sales relates to change. What are
Hmm.
some tactics that you use to be successful in the space to get people to, you know, embrace that change and buy from you?
Well, I think so. If we think about getting started in sales, you have to understand that you're not going to be good at anything at first.
Yeah.
You're not going to be good at sales. You're not going to be good at the scripting. You're not going to be good at closing. The everything's going to feel personal. You're going to suck at it. Just like anything, though. You sucked at walking when you tried walking as a baby,
Hmm.
and you failed
Talking.
hundreds. And yeah, talking. We were what did blah blah babbling. We sucked at talking. We are designed to not be good at things at first, and it doesn't change when it comes to learning a new profession. And sales is not an accident. Sales is not a naturally learned skill, or you're not born as a salesperson. And it's one of the first lessons that salespeople are made; they're not born. And so you have to see it from that perspective. To say, okay, I have to be willing to fail. And so, what can I control? I can control effort, and I can
Hmm.
control my attitude. And so I'm going to make up in numbers what I lack in skill, which means if you're going to do 100, I'm going to do 500. If you're going to do this, I'm going to work 10x that in some way, shape, or form in the beginning, because I have time. When I'm not good at something, I have time. When you're really good at something, time becomes a little bit more difficult, which is why prices go up.
Yeah.
I'd rather exchange it's like, if you have more time than money, then use that time putting reps in. And law of averages will always be in your favor. And you have to listen to the law of averages more than that little voice in your shoulder that says you can't do it.
Mhm.
If you listen to the little voice that says you can't do it, you're not going to be good at this. And here's the thing, not everyone should be in sales. It does require a mentality to be able to push through things. It requires a mentality to be able to see beyond. It requires short-term memory over adversity. It requires you to be coachable. It requires for you to do some math around like the conversion ratios and say, if I do 10 presentations, how many will I close? In Cookware, it was 10 presentations, 3 closes in the beginning. When at the time I was done, it was 10 presentations, 9 closings.
Nice.
Because I got quality was better. I learned how to qualify leads. I got better leads. I had better stories. I had better closing techniques. I was better building rapport. But that was 4 years afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And one of the biggest benefits I've seen personally is just building that confidence, building confidence in everything. Because, from my experience in life, throughout my 22 years, I've never been told no more times than working in sales. You see no, in school, you're told no, and a lot of different things, but no in sales is much more frequent, much more often, because you always say, hey, I got this for you. And everybody's like, no, not interested. So how do you get past that initial rejection? It doesn't have to even be sales. What if it's, asking someone on a date? What if it's saying, I want to
Yeah.
pursue this career, and everyone just says no?
Well, I think when it comes to rejection in general, right, we have the fear of rejection because we have hidden agendas.
Okay.
Like if you're asking a girl on a date and you walk up and you say, hey, you think you like see her at a bar, and the guy walks up and says, hey, do you think brown or black shoes go better with these? Immediately, the girl knows exactly what you're doing. It has nothing to do with your shoes. She's used to hidden agendas, which is why she doesn't trust people.
Yeah.
And so she already knows you're kicking this relationship off being dishonest. You don't want to know. You don't want my opinion on your shoes. You just want to get in the conversation. Hopefully, I'll get my number or go on a date, and who knows what happens next.
Yeah.
And so the same is true in sales. When we make phone calls with a hidden agenda, we, number one, get nervous because we're hoping that they say yes, and we hope that they like us.
Yep.
And if they don't like us, then I feel rejected. So rejection requires an offer. It requires an agenda, an expected outcome. But if you removed the expected outcome or changed it, then there is no rejection possible. Walk up to the same girl and you say, hey, excuse me, my friends are having this discussion and we need a female opinion. Do you think brown or black shoes go better with this? Now, all of a sudden, it's the same question, but with a different context. Yep. It's me and my friends are having this discussion. We just need a female opinion. It could be yours or someone else's. Now, she goes, okay, this isn't about me. I have the opportunity to opt in or opt out. And if she's super mean, I'm like, well, okay, she's mean. Thank God I don't have to deal with that.
Yep.
Or she could be super nice, and that could be a new piece of information. Wow, she seems delightful. I can have a further conversation. And she could opt in or opt out, right? And it's not offensive and it's safe. And so when we think about calling on prospects, it's the same thing. If the prospect can smell the hidden agenda a mile away, a mile away, they smell this. And so for me, if you're calling to deal, let's say you're looking for a referral business, or if you're looking, and I'll ask you for a specific scenario if you want to ask one, but if you're looking for a referral business, I always tell people, stop trying to call and get referral business cold. Instead, why don't you try to grow your network with people who have the same belief systems and commitment to excellence as you do? I said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, the phone call should be say, hey, I did a little research on you, Matt, and here's a decision that I made. Every year I decide to surround myself with people who are committed to excellence, people that have the same set of values that I do. And from what I can tell in your online profiles in our short conversation here, it looks like you might be a fit. What I'd love to do is get together this week or next week and explore that a little bit more. What days of the week are bad for you? And that all of a sudden, now the premise is about surrounding myself. And if they get a little defense, well, I'm pretty busy. And say, you know what? Hey, not a problem. Some of my best relationships are with people that I never do business with. And if I truly believe that, because I do, some of my best relationships and the most valuable people in my life, I've never sold anything to, because they give such great advice and counsel. And if I'm surrounded by good people all the time, how can you lose?
Yeah.
That's the bigger vision. And within that, they might say, man, no, that's really cool what you're doing. And they might want to do business with you, or you may want to do business with them. But at the end of the day, I'm still growing my network and the people that I'm surrounded by. And so I choose that as a higher value and a higher goal. And I can make more phone calls and meet more people with that approach than I can with saying, hey, I want to pitch my product to you. Now, sometimes there's the best approach. Let's say you're in solar, saying, hey, I'm here in your neighborhood and I'm actually promoting a new way of doing electricity. And I know you probably get a lot of pitches for this, but here's what we can offer you. And if you're open to it, we can save you X amount of money. I would love to show it to you. Whether you buy it or not, it'll at least get you open to what's happening in the future.
Yeah.
And you're at least honest about it. And then now there's no hidden agenda. The person can opt in or opt out. And so instead of trying to trick somebody into the conversation, you can be honest about it. And then at that point, at least they'll respect you.
Yeah. That's such a big thing, just stressing giving information, I think, because a lot of people they say that no, but if you frame it as I just want to give you information so you can have the peace of mind of knowing I'm making the best choice for myself because there's always other options out there. Like the way you work out in the gym, there's an alternative to it. There's a way you can do something differently to, maybe get a similar goal, maybe a better or worse goal, but there's always other options out there, but people always lack and are resistant to the information to see what all is available to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't
Yeah,
agree more.
awesome. To finish this off, two more questions for you. What gets you out of bed in the morning? That alarm clock goes off. What keeps you motivated to get up?
Agreements that are non-negotiable for myself.
Okay.
So to me, I made a decision a while ago that I don't negotiate morning with me. There's too many emotions. There's too much tiredness. There's too much going on. If I say these are the routines that I'm going to engage in, and I won't negotiate them, that means my feelings in the morning don't matter.
Yeah.
I get up and I go work out.
Yeah.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
I get up and I have a certain breakfast that makes me feel great for the day. Period. Those two pieces right there. When you finally get to the place where you go, my feelings don't matter in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm not discounting the importance of emotion or the importance of sadness or mourning loss of relationships. I'm talking about excuse my language, the bullshit feelings of excuses in the morning. I get up, I work out, I eat a good breakfast, period.
Yeah.
And whether I'm on the road, whether I didn't sleep or didn't, that's what I do. And it's just not negotiable. And so for me, knowing that, like the thought of, something inspiring in the morning doesn't work for me. Unless unless it's something really, really close to me, something really close, like let's say I've got an event coming up, that's simple. But what about the days you don't have that? What are you doing? And some days I'll be, and there are very few, like if let's say I'm on the road and I need to listen to my body, I'll sleep a little longer, but I'm usually out of bed by 6.
Mm-hmm. That's a
If
good
not,
routine to embrace that struggle. Like you said, no one wants to get up and go work out and then have a healthy breakfast. Everyone wants to sleep in and then eat an unhealthy breakfast, but doing that is going to promote so much more success in your life and start off with a win too. You
win the
start off
morning, win the
maybe
day.
exactly, you're not always like, hey, I'm super happy right now going to the gym, but putting that happiness aside, embracing the struggle and just winning that moment.
Absolutely. Embrace the struggle and if you can, I worked out this morning right before our podcast and, I was like, oh, I don't think I had enough time. And my wife looks at me and she's like, I'm like, you're right, let's go.
Yep.
And we got in a harder workout in 40 minutes than we would have in a more relaxed hour workout because we knew we had to push it hard.
Yeah, that's awesome. My last question, actually, before my last question, where can everybody find you? You have a book, you have a podcast, social media. Can you plug all of that for us?
Yeah, I mean, so my book, you can, in fact, probably the easiest thing would be follow me on social media. It's See René Speak, SEE, René, RENE, Speak. And I do a video a day on my social media. So there's new videos happening every single day without question, not negotiable. And they're not sales pitches. These are all new concepts and ideas that we get from clients and stuff. And then you can go to meetrene.com, MEET, Rene, RENE.com, and you can find my podcast, my book. You can find my programs, the Amplify workshops and events. We got AmpCon yearly one, doing an event with Brad Lee coming up on the 22nd, if this will be out by then, on personal branding. So we got a lot of really good stuff coming out.
Awesome. Good stuff. My last question for you, for anyone listening to this that wants to find success in their life and be successful, how or what advice do you have for them to take that first step?
Advice on how to be successful. I think you got to spend time defining it. And if you're defining it with material things, and I know we hear that before, if you're defining it with, houses and cars and all that other bullshit, it's a promise that never delivers. It just doesn't. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have nice cars and nice houses. I do. I like that stuff too. But it's not the purpose. You could take it all away from me. I'm just going to feel the same tomorrow.
Yep.
Because for me, the success comes in finding out what I'm capable of, doing the best that I can, and knowing that I'm serving the world in some way, shape, or form with the gifts that make me most powerful and most impactful. Spend time learning about what you are good at. Spend time finding the joy in being good at it. Then work at it every single day. And it doesn't matter if people are paying attention. Most of my career was to empty rooms, but I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And now we can have thousands of people watching, but I'm still the same person because I
Yeah.
did it when I loved it. And if you can do what you love doing, it truly is one of those things that will get you through the difficult times. If you're doing something just pursuit of money and times get difficult, you'll leave it and do something else.
It's amazing. Such a great answer. Such a great way to end this, Renee. It's been a pleasure to just soak in all this knowledge, all this value, and appreciate you spending time with us today.
Matt, thank you so much. And I appreciate it. You keep pushing, my friend. You're doing good
Thank you.
stuff.
Appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Take care.